That's why Councilman Zine, when we went in there that day, I looked at everybody. I could tell he gonna be the one. I remember I told y'all, and sure enough, he started doing something. I knew it because you can feel people's hearts now. When you get a murder like that, you hurting that deep. I looked at each council person around the whole room, and I said, Zine gonna be the one.
LA City Councilman Dennis Zine is the one who's taking on LA Special Order 40, and the fight is on. Next on Full Disclosure. Jamil Shaw lived in this house. As a youngster, he played on this street. On March 2nd, he was shot to death just a few doors from his own house, right next to a tree planted by LA Mayor Villaraigosa. His parents are understandably devastated. The community has created a shrine at the site of his murder. This plaque is a tribute to the young man who was a star athlete at his local high school. In the words of Mayor Villaraigosa, he was destined for greatness. Hello, I'm Leslie Dutton. Today on Full Disclosure, we're bringing you the news behind the news. There has been a significant uproar in Los Angeles. Jazz, as his parents called him, he was allegedly killed by an illegal alien gang member. An illegal alien who had just been released back into the community from the LA County Jail, instead of being immediately deported. Why wasn't he deported? Many people are blaming Special Order 40, LAPD's policy on immigration that requires police officers don't ask and don't tell regarding immigration status. Full Disclosure has long been involved in the issue of Special Order 40, which has spread from a local police policy to all levels of local government and state education. In fact, we have an interview with the father of Special Order 40, Chief Daryl Gates, who explained how and why Special Order 40 became a policy of the LAPD. Tell us about the history of Special Order 40 and why is it so controversial?
I don't know why it's controversial. It's been with us for 20 years and it's lasted for 20 years, probably the only thing in my administration that lasted. The order is clear today to me as it was 20 years ago when we implemented it. What was happening then was that, first of all, the Attorney General of the State of California had said that we in local law enforcement could not make arrests, that it was not that illegal immigration was not a continuing offense, that once the individual is across the border for any period of time, it was no longer an offense for the local police department to enforce.
Was that the state attorney general or the U.S.?
That was the state attorney general. Evel Younger was the attorney general at that time. So it really became a non-issue for local law enforcement. The second thing that was happening, we were picking people up who were appeared to be illegals, and we were holding them for immigration. Unfortunately, we were loading up our jails and our holding tanks, and immigration was not coming over to pick them up. So I finally said, enough is enough. The third thing that was a serious problem was that if we were going to follow equal protection under the law, we were stopping people who were Hispanics, and only Hispanics, because most of the illegals were Hispanic. And so we would stop people who were here legally, who were naturalized citizens or were citizens born here, and asking them about their status as citizens. Well, we weren't stopping anyone else. We weren't stopping you or anyone else, and if they stopped me, it would be hard for me to prove I was a citizen. I don't know that you carry anything that shows you're a citizen.
Councilman Dennis Zine was a police officer with LAPD for over 40 years. He explained how Special Order 40 is applied by the Los Angeles Police Department.
But the police department works under policy procedures, and it's in the manual. It's in the police department manual of the Los Angeles Police Department. This is from the year 2000, but it's in the manual, Special Number 40. It's a part of the policy of the police department on immigration. So the police department has a manual, and all the rules, procedures how they conduct themselves, what they do, investigations, etc. And it's in the manual. It's established policy within the police department rules that you don't stop people and inquire on immigration status.
To assure our viewers have full disclosure, we ask him to read to us the specific policy established by Special Order 40.
Okay, one solid is 390. Undocumented aliens. Undocumented alien status in itself is not a matter for police action. It is therefore incumbent upon all employees of this department to make a personal commitment to equal enforcement of the law and service to the public regardless of alien status. In addition, the department will provide special assistance to persons, groups, communities, and businesses who, by the nature of the crimes being committed upon them, require individualized services. Since undocumented aliens, because of their status, are often more vulnerable to victimization, crime prevention assistance will be offered to assist them in safeguarding their property and to lessen their potential to be crime victims. I think it's straightforward, but the interpretation, for example, when do you ask about immigration if someone's arrested? And there's other sections dealing with that issue about what you're supposed to do. The problem is officers are fearful of violating someone's human rights, violating the manual, violating the law, so they lay away from it. They just stay away from it.
So rather than risk an improper interview or arrest, cops avoid the issue entirely. We asked Councilman Zine to tell us, how is he planning to fix the problem?
A number of years ago, I came up with an idea. We need to use all the resources available, local, state, federal. And we have injunctions imposed by the city attorney, gang members who are named. And I've been trying to come up with something that would gel with my colleagues on council and be supported by the administration and the mayor's office to give the police the tools they need to really do the job because of this out-of-control gang activity, where we spend millions upon millions of dollars in intervention, prevention, dismal results. What really tipped it over the top, most recent, was the Shaw killing, where this young student, athlete, killed while his mother's serving in the military overseas, and this young student, athlete, who's not a member of a gang, who's being raised by a dad, while, again, his mother's on active duty in the military. I saw that and I said, we've got to do something. We've got to do something with these violent gangs. And then it came out that the murderer in that particular case is an individual who's a gang member, individual who is here in this country illegally, individual who's been in trouble with the law before. So then all of a sudden other people started to bring about Jamil's Law, Jamil's Law, Jamil's Law.
We asked Jamil's parents, Anita and Jamil Sr., what Jamil's Law was all about.
Jamil Law would get all the illegal alien gang bangers that everybody knows about, that's documented, deported.
Yeah.
That's what it would do in a nutshell.
It'll make everybody have to do their job. The way it's going now, we don't have to do that because we're bound by Special Order 40, so we can easily say, oh, we ain't got to worry about that. But if we amend Special Order 40, it requires the police, and it's not a decision of should we or shouldn't we. No, this is your job. We're arresting illegal alien gangbangers. You know, we're going out there, we're looking for them, we're going to put them away, we're going to get them deported. If they come back, we're going to give them more time for that, you know. See, right now the police think they have to wait until you do a crime.
What seems like common sense has whipped up a firestorm of protest, especially by the power structure in LA and the city officials. Why? We'll find out right after we take this short break. We'll be right back. It's one thing to see these little video blogs on the internet that are capturing a moment or two in time. It's another thing to hear a serious public policy maker reveal a situation that's impacting citizens across the country.
Full Disclosure video blogs, online at www.fulldisclosure.net.
Welcome back to Full Disclosure and our discussion of Jamil's Law and Special Order 40. According to LA city officials, immigration violations are not a concern for LA's police officers, but rather the responsibility of the federal government, specifically ICE. That's Immigration and Customs Enforcement. We asked Deputy DA Association President Steve Ipson to explain the existing situation as it is under the current policy mandated by Special Order 40.
Is we only have one area of cooperation, and that's within the Sheriff's Department. There's one ICE agent at the local jail whose job it is to try to deport the dangerous criminals that can be deported. And one man's not enough, and that's why we have a majority of the illegal foreign gang members being released back on the streets. Jamil Shah's murder was not the exception, it's the rule, and everybody knows it. And they have a token ICE agent doing these deportations to say that they have a plan, but it clearly isn't working. And the estimates I last read, it was reported in the Daily News, was 900 to 1,000 illegals released a day back into the city, because there is no true effort or true plan. And that's why the other element of Jamil's law that's significant and important is that there have to be quarterly reports as to how this plan is working. Not just do a plan, but how's it working? How many have been found and how many have been deported? Let's see some statistics. We know we have a problem. Let's see the results. So I think it's a very common sense approach that we should have a plan to try to get the criminals out of our community. Because if we don't have a plan to get them out of the community, then we're accepting that they're part of the community. And I don't think any citizen in LA wants to accept that a foreign invading group of terrorist gang members are part of this community.
But Councilman Zine is trying a different tact. He isn't supporting Jamil's law, but rather a minor modification of Special Order 40. Either way, Mr. Shah appreciates his efforts.
It might not be what we want because Zion is sort of breastfeeding it, but he's trying. I said the only ones that are going to do something are the ones who feel like I can do something. Nobody's in my pocket. I don't owe nobody. Maryville Ragosa probably owe everybody. Herb Wesson, Bernard Parks, Jan Perry, what's those guys' name? Weiss. Everybody in there except for Zion. He's the only one. You know, he's probably thinking, let me try to do something, but he got all this pressure that, oh, take this out, put that in, take this out. At least he's trying. Yeah. Whatever he's doing, I give him credit for that.
Rather than overhauling Special Order 40, it appears that Councilman Zine is trying to pass a stopgap measure to toughen the laws against illegal alien gang members.
Immigration is a federal issue and it needs to be handled on a federal level with Congress, the Senate, and the President of the United States. They're the ones who are responsible. But meantime, what can we do on a local level? So I came up with this idea after this tragic killing. Let's spin Special Number 40 just a little bit of modification to say an officer who stops an individual who's a gang member, and gang members are very proud of their affiliation. They wear the clothing, they have the tattoos, they're bold and brazen about their affiliation with gangs. Those individuals that the officers encounter, if they're a gang member, and we can verify they're a gang member because we can do that through a process called Cal Gangs, and they're here illegal, then why don't we use the resource of the federal government? Why don't we then say, we're going to bring in ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement? Why don't we use another tool at our disposal?
So what's the difference? We asked Mr. Steve Ibsen to help us sort it out.
I think Jamil's law is a broader application. It requires an aggressive effort by the city to locate, identify, and report to INS foreign invading gang members, to aggressively look for them. Dennis Zine's proposal is a modification of Special Order 40. It doesn't eliminate it, but it allows the police that when they do have a suspect who has committed a crime, so it's a post-crime effort, that they're allowed to report those people to INS. Jamil's law then doesn't require a new crime. It just says, let's look for the bad guys, let's look for the foreign agents, the foreign terrorists, the foreign gang members, and seek to deport them before the crime happens. Zine's proposal says, all right, we're not going to look for them, but if a crime happens and we have our suspect, let us see if it's a gang member, let us report him to ICE, let us hold him for ICE to deport him after the crime.
Mr. Shah says that Jamil's law is intended to be aggressive.
So what we want to do is we want them to be required to ask. You pull somebody over, they have a data. We're even trying to get them to don't even ask. You know you have a database full of all the gangbangers. You know these guys been in and out of jail most of their life. They got tattoos on their face, on their head, on their arms. You know they're gangbangers. You know they've been deported before. You know they're doing crimes. Go over there and take care of business. Why are you gonna wait for somebody to get killed or robbed or raped? They say, okay, he did a crime now, we'll go get him, put him in the jail, and let him right back into the neighborhood.
Councilman Zine is concerned about the constitutionality of Jamil's law.
Well, to my understanding, Jamil's law is very broad in focus, and I don't know if it would ever pass muster. My focus is very narrow in that you've got to be a gang member, you got to be in Cal Gangs so we know you're a gang member. Jamil's law, to me, I think is too loose and would be open us up to great criticism and lawsuits. Racial profiling, one of the issues. Remember, LAPD is under a federal consent decree. Federal consent decree because the department administration did not manage the officers properly. And that's why they're under a federal consent decree, because prior administrations didn't do their job. And that consent decree is continuing, which is costing taxpayers over $200,000 a month just for the monitor. So LAPD is under this federal consent decree. It's lasted over 5 years. We have to make sure we comply with the law. We can't have a renegade police department.
So the federal consent decree is another factor, almost causing paranoia within the LAPD. Has the backlash caused patrol officers to become unnecessarily hypersensitive about racial profiling? All of these factors are restricting the effectiveness of the police department in dealing with ethnic gangs.
But the gangs in this city are in the thousands, and they terrorize the neighborhoods, they terrorize the business community, and they are so brazen with the business community, which really I find so offensive. They'll go to a business and say, we want tax. And the business owner will say, what do you mean tax? Well, if you don't want to get vandalized and you don't want to get your place firebombed, you're going to pay us a tax. We'll protect your business. They're extorting businesses right here in the city of LA. And the police department's not doing a whole lot about it. And I'm offended that we're having these businessmen pay tax to the gang members for protection, just like Al Capone did in the old Chicago environment with the bootleggers and Elliot Ness and the Untouchables and the FBI. It's outrageous. In this day and age, these gang members are so brazen, they're shooting at police, they're assaulting police, they're intimidating police, they're making complaints against the police, and they're here illegal in this country, and they're a member of a violent gang, and they're terrorizing, and I call them urban terrorists, everyone. So my motion is very simple. Tweak Special Number 40 to give the police the authority, the responsibility, and the duty to follow up on those gang members who are in Cal gangs and who are here illegal. That'll have some impact. It's not going to solve the problem, but it gives the police another tool. And the police, we have police for vice, we have police for traffic, we have police for homicide, we have police for vice, narcotics. But we have police for gangs, gang enforcement teams. We have officers who are specially assigned and trained to work gangs. They know who the gang members are. They know what they're doing. They know the activity. Give them a tool so they can do their job to protect us in this community. They're paying these high taxes. We need to have protection, and the store owners need protection. And we need to do some sting operations in some of those stores and put up a storefront and have these gang members come in, let's get all that evidence, and then lock them all up in federal prison and then deport them for extortion. They're extorting businesses, they're terrorizing the community, and they're killing innocent people. And I'm saying enough is enough.
As full disclosure, we've made a surprising discovery that is the result of our current politically correct policy. After they've been convicted, due to the severe jail overcrowding, convicted illegal alien criminals are required to stay in this country as a condition of their probation.
LA County cases are evaluated, and some cases go to state prison, others are given probation. And since the official policy of the courts, as you've discovered in your investigation, and the DA's office is to ignore immigration status, we are on a regular basis putting illegal alien gang members on probation. But every probation case is the same. They're ordered to live in LA County, and they're ordered to report to their probation officer. They're ordered to get a job and go to school. So we are, because we refuse to consider status, we're putting these foreign terrorists and invading gang members on probation and ordering them to live here. And I've asked judges this, and they all agree that's what we're doing. I spoke with supervising probation officers who told me that we actually have a special designation for them so that they can show up and report in, since they don't all give their addresses. It's recognized and it's known, and the probation officer laughed when he said, yeah, that's what we're doing. We're ordering and monitoring illegals, knowing they're here illegally, and that's just the way the system works, with no effort at all to work with the federal government to return invading gang members to their countries.
Over the past decade, Full Disclosure has explored the politicalization of the police department, where certain council districts have more clout than others. It appears that enforcement of certain laws vary from district to district, based upon the whim of the council member. Councilman Zine has an issue regarding the consistency of the LA Police Department in dealing with gang members who are here illegally.
Sometimes I question the management of the police department, where in the Valley, Chief Moore, the Valley Bureau Chief, has 10 ICE agents working with his officers, deporting gang members who are here illegally, but it's not happening in other parts of the city. And my question to the chief of police is, why do we have a policy in the valley that's different than the other parts of the city? How do we have one police department and inconsistent policies?
So is this an irrational policy implemented by an inconsistent and political police department? Sadly, it gets more and more confusing. After a short break, we'll come right back and delve even deeper into the quagmire. We'll be right back.
A concerned citizen and activist for more than 3 decades, Leslie Dutton works to ensure you have a voice in government. Through Full Disclosure's online video blogs, she's asking the tough questions.
What do you think we should do about this terrible prison overcrowding problem?
And you can participate.
We want to know what you, the viewers, think.
Full Disclosure video blogs, the news behind the news, online at www.fulldisclosure.net.
Welcome back to Full Disclosure and our discussion of Jamil's Law and its intended effects on LAPD's immigration policy, as dictated by Special Order 40. Before the break, Dennis Zine suggested that LAPD isn't applying Special Order 40 in a consistent manner. We asked him to explain.
Now in the Valley, Chief Moore and his officers, the gang officers in particular, are working side by side with ICE. So they'll go through, they'll arrest these individuals. The Violent Boys, for example, I'll mention them because they're trying to clean them up. They've killed a couple of police officers. Violent gang, and very, very violent with guns and attacking police officers. So there's a major issue with them in the community, not only terrorizing the community, but assaulting and killing police officers. So they're going after them with a vengeance, and they need to do that to protect society. But you can't have a policy where the Valley LAPD does one thing and other parts don't. What the chief needs to say is, we're not going to go out and do immigration raids, but we're going to use all the resources available against criminals, including gang members who are illegal. Period. That's what he needs to say. And if you're here illegal, you're committing crimes, then we use all the resources, including the federal government, Immigration Customs Enforcement.
Councilman Zine explained the different job that is supposed to be performed by immigration enforcement.
Where immigration go out to a business, as we see happening here, and they'll go into a business and they'll take people out based upon their status. Are you legal, illegal, 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 legal? Do you have ID? Do you have a green card? Whatever. Well, they take those folks away and they deport them after a hearing. If they have the resources for that, they should have the resources to go after the hardened criminal. The hardened criminal are these gang members who are terrorizing communities around this region of Southern California.
So Councilman Zine's motion is intended to make consistent LAPD's policy towards illegal alien gang members.
We need a consistent program to say, you get arrested, you get stopped by the police, you're illegal, you're a gang member, all the resources are going to be used to put them on the run instead of the communities on the run. The communities locking themselves. You'll go to certain communities, they got razor wire, they got barbed wire, they got fences, everything's locked down, like they're locking themselves in prison, and the gangbangers run around terrorizing, tagging with graffiti. They've taken over the communities. And the good, honest people, the taxpayers, are locking themselves in basically prison. They're in prison in their own residence. They can't go out at night. They can't go to the market. They're fearful because of what the gang members have done. And many of these gangbangers are here illegally in the country. But it comes from this mentality of, well, we don't want to offend people. We're either going to support and defend the taxpayers and the honorable people, or we're going to put the crooks where they belong in jail.
But many people, in order to avoid offending the various ethnic groups, suggest that we should make a more significant investment in deterring gang membership. Councilman Zine was quite adamant in his response.
And this whole deal about millions and millions and millions of dollars on intervention and prevention, sometimes you can save them when they're young. But when they're 16, 17, 18, they're tattooed from head to toe, many of them are going to end up either in prison or dead, because that's the life of the gang. We have an obligation for the law-abiding people. And the Shaw family, we owe it to them and to Jamil Shaw, who's dead, and his mom, who's serving overseas in the military. We owe it to them to aggressively pursue the illegal gang members who are terrorizing, who killed their son, their innocent son, who was an athlete and a student and did nothing wrong, except be it the residence when this individual who just got out of jail, and I don't care if he's in Culver City or LA or Burbank or Beverly Hills, the fact is he got out, got a gun, and killed this young man who did nothing wrong. I mean, he killed him just for whatever. I don't know if it was a racial issue or what the issue was, but he killed him, and that's unacceptable. And maybe that's what's got all the talk show hosts going ballistic, and that's what's got people saying we need to make a change. I'm saying we need to make a change a long time ago, but it hasn't been done, and still the police department's resisting what I'm asking to do.
Why is the police department resisting a tool that could improve the safety of the community, we ask him?
The chief of police thinks everything's fine. The chief of police says, well, we don't need to make any change. We just need to clarify. Well, I wish he would clarify and not wait forever to clarify, because you'll talk to 10 officers, and 10 officers will give you 10 different interpretations. The bottom line is we don't want to mess with immigration. We don't know who to call. We don't know what to do, because they haven't been trained in it.
To back up his statement, Councilman Zine gave a specific example from his personal experience.
I know an officer who approached me after this whole controversy began, said he arrested an individual who was here illegal, who committed a crime, and he ran him, and he'd already been deported, and the lieutenant watch commander said, don't notify immigration, just going through the regular process. There's such misinterpretation, misunderstanding, and lack of direction from the police department, and it's the chief's responsibility to make sure his officers are properly trained. And he's made a comment that I need to be the first one in training. I'll go to training. I wish they would train everyone to understand what the rules are, because right now no one understands the rules. I don't understand the rules. If I arrest someone and they're illegal in this country, the manual says I can notify. It's further in the manual. I can notify Immigration Customs Enforcement, but it's not followed through. The policy is not really pressed by the department. They don't emphasize it. They just kind of stay away from it. Well, let's do the local charges and let immigration fall on the backs of the federal government.
But the police department isn't the only one to blame. Apparently, all levels of our government are failing in their most basic responsibility to protect its citizens.
And clearly the federal government's dropping the ball. They're not fortifying the borders. They're not doing anything that they need to do. That's an issue. That's a whole other subject. But when we're dealing with gangbangers who are killing people and terrorizing and extorting business owners, we have an obligation as government officials to do something and not just sit on our hands and let another day go by, because we're going to continue seeing these tragedies.
More murders, more rapes, more violence in our neighborhoods. According to Councilman Zine, the city officials have got to do something. Gangs in LA are out of control.
These gangbangers have no respect for life or property, and they rule by intimidation. And I'll take it back to the people who remember Al Capone. He terrorized in Chicago by intimidation. Babyface Nelson terrorized by intimidation. They didn't care. That's exactly what these gangbangers do, and they get away with it. And we're sitting on our hands in this city and not taking aggressive action. And we need to take aggressive action, and take it now before we have another Shaw killing.
So what action should we take? We want to know what you, the viewers, think. Should we merely fine-tune Special Order 40, or should we eliminate it entirely? Is there a middle ground or compromise that could be effective in fighting illegal alien gangbangers? Please call our Full Disclosure Town Hall number at 1-800-867-7777. It's 1-800-867-7777. And if you leave your name and number, we'll get back to you. Or you can log on to our website at www.fulldisclosure.net and leave your opinion there. And if you leave your email address, we'll be happy to respond. I'm Leslie Dutton. Please join us next for our program where we'll show you the statements from the various past police commissioners and let them tell you why they think Special Order 40 is so important to LA citizens. That's coming up next on Full Disclosure. Thank you.
Full Disclosure is a non-commercial public affairs program sponsored by the Citizens Protection Alliance. For a transcript or videotape copy of today's program or a listing of airtimes and channels, call our toll-free number at 1-800-867-7777 or visit our website at www.fulldisclosure.net.
We have a Special Order number 40, which came in the Daryl Gates administration. Years later, we need to modify it to address the current issues. The issues that affect the police today in the community are not the same as when Daryl Gates was the chief of police.
Is LA's immigration policy, Special Order 40, outdated and outmoded by current gang violence? Does it harbor and protect illegal alien gang members? Find out next on Full Disclosure. Hello, I'm Leslie Dutton. Today on Full Disclosure, we're bringing you the news behind the news in this part 2 of our interview with former police officer and current Los Angeles City Councilman Dennis Zine. After the murder of Jamil Shah II by an illegal alien gang member who 24 hours earlier was released from the LA County Jail, the people of Los Angeles are outraged at their local officials for allowing the situation to occur. The focus of their anger is Special Order 40.
We need to modify Special Number 40. And Special Number 40 is that order that says police can't stop people, check their status in the country. And I support that. We don't want to start doing immigration raids. We have people from all over the world. We have people from Canada. We have people from the Central America. We have people from the Middle East, people from all over the world. And we're not the immigration police. So the issue of immigration is a factor that the federal government needs to do. They need to fortify the border, employee verification, all those issues.
But if the federal government is failing to stop illegal alien gang members from infiltrating into our cities, shouldn't the police be empowered to check immigration status to protect people like the young Jamil Shah? We ask him if we should rescind Special Order 40.
I support Special Number 40, the concept that we're not going to send officers out to do immigration raids. If you wipe away Special Order 40, an officer could say, well, okay, let me go in an apartment building and let's start seeing who's legal, who's illegal. Well, you know, you have a loud party call. You're illegal, we're going to call immigration and take you away. Well, I won't turn the radio down. No, we don't care. You're here illegal, we're going to take you away. We don't have a national ID card where people have to show an ID when they're stopped by the police. We have a Social Security card when you get a job, but there's no national ID card. And we may come to that as terrorism continues to expand and the fear, the fright that we have as Americans. But for the time being, what you have is the rule, the principle, and the standard of government. And the laws are interpreted by the Supreme Court. The laws are on the books. We have to follow those rules. But what we have in LA is higher than that, the federal consent decree. LAPD was sued because of racial profiling. LAPD was sued because of abuse of minorities. So there's a standard that we have to be very sensitive to. And if we just say Special Number 40 out the window, we don't care, go check people for immigration status, you'll have some officers who may cross the line and say, okay, where's your ID? I don't have it. Well, you might be illegal. We're going to ship you away. We don't want that abuse.
So what's happened is that the LAPD now can ask for identification.
But they can't ask without cause. That's the issue about racial profiling. That's the issue about immigration raids. So we can't ask for your identification without cause.
Well, if you want information, that's cause, isn't it?
Well, what's the reason for information? We have to have a reason.
Well, you tell us, because
We have to
you're
have a
out
reason.
there in the
It's
field.
called reasonable cause, probable cause. You have to have a reason to stop. Just because you see some guy walking down the street with baggy clothes and looks like a gangbanger, you can't just pull over and say, let me see your ID. You've got to have some reason. There's got to be some legitimate reason, some cause. It's called poison, fruit of the poison tree. If you don't have a justified reason, whatever you find is thrown out in court. So you've got to make a legitimate stop. You're driving down the street and you see somebody, no seatbelt, cause. You see somebody driving down the street, no lights at night, cause. You see somebody, the car smoking, cause. You got to have a legitimate reason. You can't just say, they look like a gangbanger, I want to pull them over and talk to them. That's illegal. You can't do that. You got to have cause to stop, because the Constitution protects you from unreasonable search and seizure. The Constitution guarantees certain rights, whether you're illegal or illegal. So once you make that legitimate stop, we talk about a legitimate stop, no license plate light. You ran through a red light, you were speeding, whatever the case may be. That's a legitimate stop. Now I want to see some identification. You have identification or you don't. If you don't have identification, we can book you and impound your car. If you
So we can't ask our police to question people who are obvious gang members as they loiter around schools, playgrounds, or ATM machines. Does there need to be blood on the streets before the police can get involved?
So there's certain laws that we have to work under, and that's just part of the premise of American democracy and the Constitution that we live under. And when we don't do it, we violate it, now we're opening ourselves up to lawsuits. Now we open the taxpayers up to lawsuits. That law is very clear. So a gang member doing nothing wrong, the officers can't stop them just because they're a gang member doing nothing wrong. They got to see them do something, tagging, graffitiing, throwing something, throw trash on the ground, litter bugging. Okay, littering is a violation of the law. Now they got cause to stop. Now they got cause to investigate. Now they got cause to, let me see your ID. So you get a gangbanger that's throwing something on the ground, littering. He's eating something, he throws the wrapper on the ground. That's a violation of littering. That gives that officer cause to stop that individual. If they're a gangbanger, that's a crime. They could be arrested and they could be deported.
So it is a crime to be a gang member?
No, no. It's not. You can be a gang. It's not illegal to be a gang member. But if you're a gang member and you get arrested for littering and you're illegal, then they could use immigration custom enforcement.
Councilman Zine has the same goal as Jamil's law. Get the illegal alien gangbanger and put him where he can't harm U.S. citizens.
I've heard the dad, Jamil Sr., I've heard him many times, Mr. Shaw Sr., that they want to go after the gangbangers. That's what they want to do. And that's exactly what my Special Number 40 modification does, strictly against the gangbangers. And that's why I say, who's going to be opposed to it? You're a gangbanger, you're in cow gangs, so we know you're a gangbanger, and we determine you're illegal. I mean, how much cleaner, how much simpler can it be? We're not going after every gardener. We're not going after every individual who's doing labor work, whatever it may be, housekeeping or a cook or whatever. Where's your idea? I don't have it. Okay, we're going to take you away. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do raids in the communities of Los Angeles and take away people who are illegal. Let the federal government deal with that. I want to deal with strictly the gang problem. And the gang problem is where we have the violence. The gang problem is where we have the terrorism in the community. The gang problem is what we have with the intimidation of business owners.
The immigration issue is a hot topic all over the nation. And when dealing with undocumented criminals, the problem becomes even more divisive.
This is a sensitive issue when you talk about immigration, because we are a country of immigrants. We're a city of immigrants. You look at Los Angeles, we're a whole smorgasbord of, I mean, I'm Middle Eastern. So you look at Middle Eastern, you look at people from Central America, South America, Asia, all around. And I've been to other countries. I've been to South Africa, I've been to Ireland, I've been to England, I've been to China, Korea, Japan. I've been to other countries. And when you go to those countries, they all look the same. You go to Asia, they're all Asians. You stand out. You don't see many African Americans, you don't see many Latinos. You go to Ireland, you see all the people who look Irish. Mm-hmm. You see the people with the red hair and the freckles, and you think they all look the same. They're all looking like, I have a lady in my office. She's Italian. I've been to Italy. She does my media coordination, Miss Tarman. She looks like a typical Italian. And Italian people in Italy all look the same. But we have diversity over here. The diversity is what we have that other countries don't have. You come here and you see all types of people here. So what we have here is the unique aspect that other countries don't have. Mm-hmm. How do we make that all work with Special Number 40? How do we make that all work with immigration where we don't be criticized, we don't have racial profiling?
So the LAPD Chief Daryl Gates signed Special Order 40 in an attempt to make it all work. And now the gangs are using that policy to thwart the police and continue to commit crimes. We're going to take a quick break right now, and when we come back, you're going to see some clips from the Full Disclosure archives showing what Councilman Dennis Zine and Mr. Shaw are up against, the institution of Special Order 40 immigration policy.
A concerned citizen and activist for more than 3 decades, Leslie Dutton works to ensure you have a voice in government. Through Full Disclosure's online video blogs, she's asking the tough questions.
Where on earth is the mainstream media?
And you can participate.
We want to hear from you on this issue.
Full Disclosure video blogs, the news behind the news, online at www.fulldisclosure.net. Get involved today.
Welcome back to Full Disclosure and our program on the attack on LAPD's immigration policy of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, known as Special Order 40. After the shocking murder of Jamil Shah II, Councilman Zine offered a motion in the City Council to modify Special Order 40 in an attempt to deter preventable murders, like the 17-year-old Jamil Shah. He was met with intense resistance.
So all of a sudden I come up with this order with my staff to say, let's come up with a new policy. Let's modify. Let's do a motion to modify Special Number 40. All of a sudden, it was like the grenades were launching. All of a sudden, we're going to invade the neighborhoods. And the people came out and said, you can't do this. The chief of police says this is not right. We need to stay where we are. We don't want to go doing immigration raids. And I'm not saying immigration raids. I'm saying very narrow focused. Gangs, affiliated with gangs, affiliated committing violence, affiliated, we need to do something. We can't just keep our head in the sand and say, well, let the criminal justice handle it.
Why was he confronted with such surprising opposition? Because Special Order 40 has been institutionalized for the past 36 years. Here's a short clip from 1998 where the president of the Los Angeles Police Commission, Edith Perez, justified the implementation of Special Order 40.
We had Special Order 40 come up before our commission last June. And at that time, the department felt that it was very important to get the cooperativeness of witnesses and to ensure that they could deliver police services by being able to talk to people who might not be here in the country with the appropriate documents. But we have to remember what the chief said. We don't enforce immigration laws. INS enforces immigration laws. And we don't enforce zoning laws, and we don't enforce building and safety code laws too. There are other jurisdictions which enforce those laws. So we have to say, this is the responsibility of the INS. We don't have the resources, and we don't have the training, and so the police department operationally has said there just aren't the resources or the training, and that's not within our jurisdiction. And our city attorney has agreed that the special order 40 can continue to exist as it is. It is almost 20 years old. You have to balance the needs of the police department to provide community services to everyone. And if they started asking everybody for immigration status, they would not get the information they need to apprehend suspects, criminals. So the benefits of not intimidating witnesses by not asking them for their status outweighs the need to start becoming a duplicate of the INS.
The Police Commission sets the policy of the police department. They decide what actions are to be taken by the police officers in every situation. Here's another LA Police Commission President, Rick Caruso, who responded in 2002 to the question, has Special Order 40 outlived its usefulness in light of the terrorist attack of 9/11?
Well, Special Rule 40 has not been changed, and I don't see it being changed. I don't think LAPD should be in the business of immigration. That's the Immigration Department's business. Now, as I understand it, if an officer becomes aware that somebody is here illegally, that information will be turned over to INS, and INS will deal with it. And the reason for that is we want people to feel safe in this community. We want to be able to get information from people in this community without the fear that LAPD is there knocking on their door to throw them out of the country. And I'll give you a good example real quick. When the little girl in Echo Park was lost and kidnapped, one of the problems we had is that community, the Latino community around Echo Park, when the police were out there, the concern was whether or not the police were there looking for immigration violators or trying to get information of who may have taken this little girl. So nobody in this city should ever fear that LAPD is going to throw them out of this country. It's a tough decision to make, but I think it's the right rule. There's other ways in fighting terrorism than changing Rule 40.
And then the next Police Commission President, David S. Cunningham III, concurred with his predecessors.
In the context of a city like Los Angeles, which is as large as we are, which is diverse the population that we have, I think that as a matter of good policy, you want to not necessarily dissuade people from having police contact based on their status. And I think that's the heart of it. You're going to the concept of dissuading people from having police contact merely because of their immigration status. We have elected in this city as a policy to state that irrespective of your immigration status, that provided you're not violating the law, provided you're not a convicted felon, provided there isn't a warrant out for your arrest, that we welcome you to have contact with the department without the fear or the chilling effect of thinking that questions will be asked about your green card and you'll be turned over to the INS.
It appears they are all more concerned about offending innocent immigrants than apprehending dangerous alien criminals. And of course, the Chief of Police, Bill Bratton, dutifully follows and supports their advocacy of Special Order 40.
Special Order 40 still remains a policy that is strongly supported by the Mayor, City Council, Police Commission, and myself as Chief of Police. I don't have a particular problem with it as it relates to the single issue that a person's immigrant status is of really no concern to us to allow us to do our business in terms of investigating a crime. And particularly its intent was to encourage people who might have been undocumented illegal immigrants to report to the police crimes that had been visited upon them. So we cannot police if we don't have accurate information about what's happening. If we do not have people who are willing to come forward to indicate they've been victims or to serve as witnesses. And so the order has worked well for us in that way.
It seems curious that LA's law enforcement officials are resisting efforts by the citizens to make the department more effective in protecting the people. That's what is motivating the Shaws on their crusade to modify or eliminate Special Order 40.
That's why we're trying to amend Special Order 40. We're trying to give the police officers a chance to fix the federal immigration rules, which says that if you're in the country 6 months, and when you're in the country illegally, you get caught 6 months in the county jail. So that means when you come over here from day one, you have a warrant on you. It's like having a warrant. So if you get pulled over for expired registration and they find out you're illegal, then you have a warrant. It's like you having a speeding ticket you didn't pay, and you get put up by the police. They're not gonna ask you walk down the street, hey, you got a ticket on you? No, but when they check your ID, they find that out. When we pull somebody over, check their identification. Why you can't ask them are they here a citizen or not? Where's there no database that could show that they're illegal, they're here illegally, and then you get deported? But they're letting them, they can't even ask.
Chief Bratton thought it important to clarify that Special Order 40 doesn't prevent his department from working in concert with federal immigration authorities.
I need to clarify for the public at large that it's not a total prohibition on dealing with the illegal population, particularly its criminal population. That has not precluded us from arresting criminals who are illegal immigrants, and in instances where their crimes are serious or drug-related, drug sales, working with the federal government to, after they are convicted, serve their time, deport them. But if they then come back into the country illegally again, then we will in fact focus on that particular person if we encounter them again. And so we've been engaged in the last number of months on a clarification as it relates to that particular aspect of Special Order 40. But I don't think that there's a need at this particular time to make any changes or amendments in it.
Councilman Zine thinks that clarification needs to be more clear, especially to LA's patrol officers and watch commanders.
And all I'm asking for is an officer who stops an individual who is a gang member, and they have to verify they're a gang member, not just, well, because you have baggy pants or you're wearing a t-shirt and you may have a tattoo. Not possibly, but the process of verification they're a gang member. If they make an arrest, that arrest goes through the process and that individual is then held for immigration custom enforcement. So once the criminal proceedings are complete, then that person can be deported. Let ICE do their job. If that individual is not arrested, then I'm saying notify immigration custom enforcement. So they'll then have that information on file that this person was stopped by the police for whatever cause, there was no arrest. However, they're identified as an illegal individual in this country who's a member of a gang. What we need to do is we need to draw this line in the sand. You're either going to be for the victims or you're going to be for lawless society. That's what we need to do.
So, will he get his motion passed? Will Jamil's Law become the new policy for Los Angeles? Or will the sanctuary policy of old remain in effect? When we come back, we'll find out what Councilman Zine is planning to do to make a difference. We'll be right back.
Now, Full Disclosure has video blogs online.
A lot of things are going to be talked about concerning important subjects.
Log on now and be better informed.
Our goal is to represent to the people the truth on issues.
Video blogs where your voice is heard.
There is no other place where people can come and find the information that we have.
Full Disclosure video blogs at www.fulldisclosure.net.
Welcome back to Full Disclosure and the debate over LAPD's immigration policy. We asked Mr. Zine to explain what his proposed modification will do to Special Order 40.
Law enforcement officers have these guidelines to work under. It's just like when the river flows. It flows with the boundaries. The officers have boundaries. They got to work within those boundaries. And part of those boundaries, understand the law, and the interpretation is often by the courts, but we have to work within the boundaries of the law. So a person has a matricular card, a driver's license. Is it valid? Do they have a warrant? They have to build their cause. So the whole focus I'm just trying to say with the Special Number 40 modification is very simple. I stop you, a legitimate stop, you're in Cal gangs, and you have not committed a crime, I'm going to notify Immigration Custom Enforcement. I made this stop, a Cal gang member, and we didn't book him. So now they'll have on that file, this person was stopped and they're illegal. Because how do you determine the status in the country? Nothing says you have to carry your birth certificate. They do it through investigation, through conversation. Yeah, I'm illegal. I've been here, for 10, 15 years. Okay, thank you very much. So ICE now has that. They put that in the file. The next time we stop you and you've committed a crime and you get it booked, now ICE is going to have that. You're illegal. We verified it by your own admission. Now you're going to go through the criminal justice system and then get deported.
This doesn't seem to be an extraordinary change. No huge modification. Just a simple tweak applied to known gang members.
That's all I'm asking for. I'm asking for something so common sense, so reasonable, and why I'm getting resistance from the police department, absolutely, I find amazing. All they need to do is say, what Zion is saying works very well. It's legal, it's lawful, and it's appropriate way if we're serious about addressing the gang problem.
We ask him, what arguments is he hearing to protest his simple modification?
You know what? I've heard slippery slope, slippery slope. That's what I've heard. What's a slippery slope? The slippery slope. Well, now you're going to do immigration raids. We're not asking for immigration raids. We're asking for a minor modification. Oh, slippery slope. I've heard that from a number of people. Slippery slope. There's no slippery slope. There's the rule. We're not going to go out and do immigration raids. What we're going to do is enforce the law and tell these gangbangers who are terrorizing the community, killing innocent people, we've had enough. Enough of what they're doing, and we're taking a stand. We're drawing the line in the sand. We're taking a stand and say, this is where it ends. You commit a crime, these are the consequences. You're illegal, these are the more severe consequences.
Well then, why not support Jamil's law? It seems to accomplish the same thing, but with more teeth.
The problem with that is if it doesn't pass muster with the law of the land, the Constitution, the limitations, it gets thrown out. Just like the cross on the county seal. The cross on the county seal was taken off because of a lawsuit by the ACLU. You've got to make sure it follows the guidelines. Now, it may be reactionary, Jamil's law and what good it could do. I mean, it would be nice if police officers could stop anyone anytime and ask for identification. But they can't. And that's the issue we have to deal with, is the reality of restrictions imposed upon government. So Jamil's law may be wonderful in concept, but in reality, does it conform to the Constitution? Does it conform to the laws of this land in this state of California? That's where I have a question with it.
So what can citizens do to help promote change with the current policy? We ask him, what can we do?
And any of your viewers, on full disclosure, we encourage them to send in letters. We encourage them to show their support for this modification special number 4 so we can go after the gangbangers. And we also encourage them to contact my colleagues on City Council, the mayor. You can either email or phone, whatever is appropriate, whatever you're most convenient, and let them know. Support Zion's modification special number 40.
If his motion passes the City Council, we ask him what effect will it have on Special Order 40?
And then this pressures the police commission, the police department, the chief, say, okay, you got to make this modification. Now the chief may decide, you know what, the pressure's too hot, I'm going to go ahead. I don't care who makes it happen. I want to see it done. I want to let the cops go out there and do their job as a cop. My son's a police officer. I'm still a reserve, retired full-time from LAPD. So I know what the officers want to do, and I've spoken to them. And they've said, Zion, you're right on target. Give us this tool. Clear up the confusion. Eliminate all of the smoke and mirrors. Let's go out there and do the job that we're paid to do.
What is your strategy to win the votes that you need at the City Council level and to win over the mayor to seeing how you see it and making the modification?
Well, my wonderful staff is working on that. We're getting neighborhood councils to send letters of support. We're getting chambers of commerce to send letters of support. We're working with my colleagues to inform them. The polls that are coming out are all very positive, and I don't work on polls. That's not how I conduct my business and my votes. I go by what my conscience tells me, what I feel in my gut, and what the public wants. I have a good sense of reality. I know what the public wants. The public wants to be safe. So how do I convince? We convince by the polls that are coming out to show my colleagues. We convince by the neighborhood councils, the chambers, the community that's saying, you know what, modify special number 40. I've even spoken to immigrant rights groups that I've met in this room. I brought them forward to say, all we want to do is protect you and the community. We don't care about the status of the people in the community. We care about the gangbangers who are causing havoc and terrorizing the community. We want to work with you. Well, then one lady who's a member of an immigrants rights group, well, their sons and their daughters. I said, I understand that, but their sons and daughters who are gang members are going to kill your son and daughter. What about that? It's like they have this empathy for people. But I have the reality check. If we don't check it now, how many more innocent people are going to die? How many more childs are going to be buried where their mom or dad's overseas fighting for the liberty of our country, and they have to come back to bury their son and go back to the military? I mean, that's horrifying. So we have to work it, and we need people to come forward, to contact the mayor, to contact the council. We support this motion to modify special number 40.
Councilman Zine knows he's fighting an uphill battle.
And I've spoken to some of my colleagues, and there's some of my colleagues on council are reluctant to get involved in this. Well, we don't want to offend. I said, offend? We're either going to protect people or we're not.
And Mr. Shaw concurs. This has become a political struggle, which he claims is distinguished by right and wrong.
But when it became he was illegal, separated sides. You can see how the mayor picked his side, all the council people, everybody who was on the side of good was over here. Everybody was on the, well, just put it this way, people who were on the side of right got on this side. People on the side of wrong moved to that side, because people who were wrong, they knew that he was an illegal alien. He shouldn't have been here. We found out how the LA County lit him out without calling ICE. ICE never checked him. They lit him out on a Saturday night without supervision. No probation department checked him out, nothing like that. They lit him out on a Saturday night, unsupervised pretty much, knowing that this boy had just got out of jail with an assault with a deadly weapon, resisting arrest, battery on a peace officer. He did all that, only got 4 months in jail. We were overcrowded, so they lit him out into the public.
I'm trying to get some other colleagues to support this, and they're resistant. They're kind of testing the water. Well, you've got to sometimes stand up and be courageous and jump in. And when you jump in, you're going to find out. You're either going to be able to make it across or not. But take that chance and do what is right in your conscience. In the soul of your body, are you doing something that's right? I have no question what I'm doing is right. No question that Special Order number 40 needs to be modified. It needs to be modified to give the cops the tools to do their job. And it needs to send the message to gangbangers, if you're going to terrorize, don't do it in Los Angeles. The welcome mat is no longer out for gangbangers in the city of Los Angeles. And if you're an illegal gangbanger, it's a double unwelcome mat.
And so Councilman Dennis Zine and Mr. Shaw, father of the murdered victim, are trying to make a difference. We want to know what you, the viewers, think. Do you support Dennis Zine's modification, or Jamil's law, or both? Please call our Full Disclosure Town Hall number at 1-800-867-7777. That's 1-800-867-7777. And if you leave your name and number, we'll get back to you. Or you can log on our website at www.fulldisclosure.net and leave your opinion there. And if you leave your email address, we'll be happy to respond. I'm Leslie Dutton. Please join us next time for another edition of Full Disclosure. Thank you.
Full Disclosure is a non-commercial public affairs program sponsored by the Citizens Protection Alliance. For a transcript or videotape copy of today's program, or a listing of airtimes and channels, call our toll-free number at 1-800-867-7777 or visit our website at www.fulldisclosure.net.